The Jesse Blake Sports Report with Jesse Blake.
Welcome to the Jesse Blake Sports Report. Whether this is your first time here, your last time here, or somewhere in between, I appreciate that you're here today so that we can discuss the PWHL. Yes, the Professional Women's Hockey League is underway. It's been underway for a couple weeks now. They launched it on January 1st with their 6 teams, and there's a couple things I want to hit on before we get to the headline of this video, or this audio if you're listening on audio, and that is expansion of the PWHL. So a couple things, 3 things before we get to the expansion shop. We'll talk. One, I'll be quick. One, Toronto. Toronto's at the bottom of the standings, but let's hold back judgment right now on the good teams and the bad teams. There's only 6 teams, and right now it looks like they're all kind of even though Toronto has been on the losing end more than the winning end. Toronto just beat Montreal in a shootout, and Montreal beat Minnesota, and now Montreal's at the top of the standings, and Toronto's still at the bottom. But, you know, I feel like 3 weeks into an inaugural season is too quick to judge who's bad and who's good and who's going to be in the championship game and all that stuff. So stop making fun of us, because none of our hockey teams are good right away. There's lots of season left, and Toronto looks decent, and they had a great game against Montreal. So there's a lot of hope. Don't rule out the Toronto PWHL team. We're good. We're going to be good. Speaking of Toronto, second thing, they're going to host Montreal at Scotiabank Arena. They're calling it the Battle on Bay Street, which is kind of fun. So on February 16th, Toronto, Montreal, Scotiabank. If you didn't know, Toronto's playing their games at Mattamy Athletic Center, Toronto Metropolitan University. Their rink there, that's where Toronto's PWHL team is playing. That arena was sold out for the entire season before the games even went. Before they even started, they sold out that rink the entire season. So we're getting one game at Scotiabank, at least one, on February 16th. Tickets go on sale February 1st. I hope Toronto is able to break the record for most attended game in a women's hockey league ever that was set a couple weeks ago at 13,000. Scotiabank's a 19,000 seat arena. If we Toronto people can sell it out, we can break that record. If we can get to 14, if we get to 15, that'd be a cool moment to have. I'm going to try and get my hands on tickets. If I can't get my hands on tickets, that's a good thing, because that means it'll be sold out. But on February 1st, we'll be sitting on Ticketmaster trying to get a pair of tickets to that game and be a part of history, hopefully in Toronto at the Battle on Bay Street. Third thing, just quick note I want to throw out, because something pretty cool happened. Jamie Lee Rattray, she plays for the Boston PWHL team. She is from Ottawa. Boston played Ottawa in Ottawa. She had not scored a goal so far this season. She scores her first ever PWHL goal during her homecoming in Ottawa. Really cool moment. It felt like she saved her goal for that moment, you know, to have her first ever goal there in Ottawa. Wicked moment. Wanted to shout that out for Ratty. That's pretty darn cool. And now what I wanted to actually talk about today, expansion in the PWHL, because the Pittsburgh Penguins came out this week and they talked about how they wanted a team when they were building this league, and they didn't get it. And now they've spoken again, and specifically Kevin Acklin, who is the Penguins president of business operations. He spoke to Haley Salvian and Rob Rossi in The Athletic about how the Penguins and Pittsburgh are set up. Like, they have operations right now to get a team going. They want a team. They were prepared to have one of the original teams, and now they're left on the outside being like, please, whenever you want to expand, we are here ready and waiting. And that's a really cool thing for the league, to know that there are markets that desire a women's hockey league a women's hockey team in this league, which that's great news for the Mark Walter Group, who owns the league. And that's one of the main things I think we need to talk about when discussing the expansion and getting a team to Pittsburgh. Mark Walter Group, that's the group that owns like the Los Angeles Dodgers. They have lots and lots of money. They own the league. They own all 6 teams. If you're familiar with the NHL or the NBA or the NFL or one of the 4 major pro sports men's leagues, those teams are owned by individual owners, and they are individual, say 32 owners that own their separate teams, and then they all come together with their teams, and they have like a commissioner and all that stuff, but they're still separate entities, but they play under one league. The PWHL is all 16s are owned by the Mark Walter Group. So it's not like the Penguins can come in and buy a team, which makes expansion a little difficult because it's entirely up to the Mark Walter Group about when they want to expand and to who. They don't have to sell a team to anybody. They don't have to, nobody can come in and purchase a team. They can have investors in a team. They could say, hey, if you want to have a team in Pittsburgh, you can invest in the league. There are ways around it, but the Penguins can't, and Kevin, they can't own a team right now. That is not how the league works. So I think we're going to be waiting a little bit before we get expansion to these markets. But in my perfect reality, I would love to see the PWHL at 10 teams in hopefully the near future. I think there's enough women's hockey players to support 10 teams, I think, in my mind. And with the league, there's only going to be more players desiring to be in the league. You know, the league will only grow hockey more. Now that there is a direct goal that you can shoot to and just like, hey, I want to play hockey and grow up and be in the league, that's only going to get more women playing hockey, which is excellent, which will lead to more teams. So in my mind, I want 10 right now. You know, I think 10 would be a comfy number because then you could have 2 divisions of 5. I think it'd be a good split. And then eventually that 10 would lead to 20 and you'd have an East and a West. But that's way, 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 way down the road. Right now, I'd love to see the six that we got. So Minnesota, New York, Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, Minnesota. Those are the 6. I would love to see Pittsburgh because they're set up. They're ready to go. Chicago, that's my wild card. I think Chicago, huge market, we know. Great hockey town, sustainable market for women's hockey. Washington, D.C. I think Washington, D.C. is very important to have in the next round of expansion. They have been one of the best cities, the Capitals in particular in that organization there. They have been one of the best cities in supporting women's hockey and the rivalry series and the PWHPA and all of that. They've been excellent. And I think that market would thrive with the women's hockey team. And last on my list for expansion, Buffalo. Buffalo's proven that they can have a team with the PHF. They had the Buffalo Buttes. I think you go back to that market. I love smaller cities because when it's a smaller city and they have their one thing, you see how rabid the fan base is. Like, you don't have the big corporate dollars like you would in a Chicago or New York or Toronto and all that, but you have the community aspect. You look at what they're able to do with the Buffalo Bills and the Buffalo Sabres and how much Buffalo cares about their teams. Buffalo would absolutely adore if they could get a women's hockey team back. Because remember, they just lost the Buffalo Buttes. So those are my teams for expansion. Chicago, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, and Washington, D.C. Those 4, I think I would absolutely adore to be in the next round of expansion. Then you get to 10, and then you get to expanding out west with your next 10. You build the Western Conference. That's what I'd like to see of the PWHL. Congrats on a fabulous start to your inaugural season. I think you're doing a tremendous job. The games are all on YouTube. You're on YouTube right now. If you're watching this, you can watch the games. It's pretty darn cool. That's it for me today. Thank you for being here. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you'll be watching this or listening right now, and I appreciate you. Good night from Toronto.
And that is how it's done.
The Jesse Blake Sports Report with Jesse Blake.
Jesse Blake, the guy that likes to hear his name twice in one sentence. Sure, I know him. No, he doesn't have an ego at all.